All right. Good morning, everybody. So, good morning, and welcome to APSCA's 2024 Annual Meeting of Members and Stakeholders. Welcome to Ho Chi Minh City, everybody. My name is Ross Nova. I'm the new President and CEO of APSCA. And I'm very excited to have everyone here today. I'm going to be leading the opening session. And it's going to be a lot of stuff sort of crammed into one. I'm going to start with the learnings from my first 50 days at APSCA, including 2024 highlights. Then after that, you'll get a chance to meet our new board of directors. After that, Avadi Safarian, who's the chair of those board of directors, will lead us through a review of our 2030 strategy and vision. So, well, the entire board, as you can see, will come up and you'll have a chance to ask the board whatever questions you want. So one of the things that I like about this conference is we're trying to make it as interactive as we can. We have almost 200 people here in the room, and we have over 1,200 people that are watching us online. So that's really, really good. So for those who are on the line, watching this remotely, wherever you are, welcome. I'm sure some of you, this is in the middle of the night for you, so thank you very much. Please, this is participatory for everyone here. This is participatory for everyone, no matter where you are. Type in your questions. Use the Slido, which I'll explain in a little bit more, to ask your questions. This is your opportunity to ask me and to ask the board any questions that you'd like to ask. And then, right before the tea break, we're going to do a deep dive into the membership aspect of APSCA. So throughout the conference, you're going to hear from people that run departments within APSCA about what's going on in their world. Membership will start this morning and will lead us into the morning tea break. So the theme of the conference is navigating the future of social compliance. What does that mean? You're going to hear over the next 2 days a lot about new legal requirements. You're going to hear a lot about new auditing techniques and ways that APSCA will help you understand both of those. The presenters today, we've spent a lot of time and put on a lot of thought to get presenters from a broad array of people from within the social compliance auditing community and from outside the social compliance auditing community. So you're going to hear from people that work with collaborative governance programs such as the IOM and the OECD. You'll hear from civil society organizations such as NGOs. You'll hear from collaborative auditing programs. You'll hear from auditing firms. You'll hear from people like me, you'll hear from APSCA staff, and you'll also hear from social compliance auditors. The theme of the future of social compliance focuses on what's new, and it ties into why we chose Vietnam for the location of our annual member meeting. And this is the first time that we've been in Vietnam for this session. And we chose it because Vietnam embodies what's new. I've now been in the industry long enough to remember a time when Vietnam was not a place that we did a lot of sourcing. It was new. It was this new place, and now we can't imagine supply chains without it. Vietnam is now the #2 global supplier of footwear. It is a top 5 supplier of apparel. It is a top 10 exporter and supplier of electronics, and now is in a top 15 global exporter of agricultural products. And it wasn't that long ago that we weren't really sourcing here very much. So as Vietnam has adapted to the global economy and has become a new leader in supply chain, so too are we going to learn today about how our industry needs to add in new techniques, new ways of thinking in order to adapt to changing times. So I now need to turn to housekeeping. So let me do some housekeeping and safety rules and all that stuff. Throughout the conference, you're going to see some video messages. And the first video message will be after my talk this morning. And these are voices from different stakeholders inside of APSCA, outside of APSCA, from around the world, and will introduce us to different aspects of social compliance auditing. Boring housekeeping stuff that I need to get out of the way. So for those of you in the room, bathrooms are located over here to the way you're sitting, to your right. The morning tea break will also be in this hallway out here. And lunch later today will be in the room on the other side of this wall behind you. Emergency exits are located both to the left out here and to the right in case there's an emergency. But primarily there are stairs out here to the left. Please use those in case of emergency. If you have any questions during the conference, APSCA staff is available to work with you if you have any questions, and you'll see their name tags as you go. During the breaks, we'll have coffee, tea, and light refreshment available. Please take the opportunity to connect with one another. I know you guys love it when I'm standing up here and talking. To me, the best part about these conferences is the conversations you have over break, when you really get to know each other. Take advantage of it. Come introduce yourself to me. I would love to get to know you. Take advantage of the time that we have together. Questions and answers. Not only do we have questions and answers with the board coming up later, but every panel session will have a question and answer session as part of it. Please take advantage of it. Again, if you're here, ask your question. If you're online, ask your question. We have intentionally left space for participation, so we want to hear from you what concerns you. So this is a two-way feedback. Social media. If you have a social media post, which I know I will have plenty of, there's a hashtag, hashtag AMMS 2024. So please post early and often. Just make sure if you could tag us, that would be great. And then finally, I just want to remind everyone of Chatham House rules, which apply to our conference today and tomorrow. Chatham House rules is a fancy way of saying you can share out what we learn and what people say, but do not attribute anything that people say to any one person or to the company or organization they work for. Take away the knowledge, but it's not about the people, it's about learning and the industry. So with that, let me get on to back to the speech. This is day 51, so I've had 50 days on the job to learn what's going on, and I've done a lot of listening, and then I did some more listening, and then decided to do a little bit more listening after that. I want to share with you what I've heard so far. I'm going to start with the positives first. Anyone that's worked with me will know, positives first, that's how I lead it. We'll then talk about the challenges as well. One of the things that I want to make sure that you understand is you see what I see, and I'll share that with you here today. So let me just thank Meg Crawford, Emma Youngman, Kara Chan, Barbara Youngman, Yadira Hurtado, and Stephanie Reagan in particular for their unbelievable hard work. Their dedication and their ability to survive on no sleep is absolutely unbelievable. So one of the things that I've learned is APSCA is strong. You never quite know until you come in what an organization is like because you're coming in from the outside. APSCA is actually stronger than I thought it was. And let me go through some of the reasons why and really focus on the recent successes that we've had in 2024. So far, we have 58 member firms. An additional 10 are in the provisional membership period. So in not too long, we'll have 68 member firms, and more are applying every day. We have partnerships with 6 collaborative programs. And we are just shy of 3,000 CSCAs. And we have over 2,200 ASCAs. Membership, collaboration, and cooperation are stronger than they've ever been. Exams. A lot of success on the exam side of what we do. One of the highlights is there is no waiting period for an exam. If you are an auditor new to the field, you could, from beginning to end, become a CSCA in as little as 3 months. We've worked very hard to speed up that process. Auditor capacity. We understand that there are some auditor capacity issues, and we've addressed how to fix those in some cases. We have member firm clinics. We have member auditor clinics. We have train-the-trainer programs. We have improvement plans for people that are having difficulty with Part 3. And I'll explain a little bit later that we have country-specific auditor capacity programs that started just 2 weeks ago. After exams, we have continuing professional development. For those of you who are CSCAs, you understand that you have annual continuous education requirements, and we've made it easier than ever to take those credits, to get those credits. We have 262 recognized courses. We have 10 on-demand webinars ready to go, and we've just launched a new resource page for independent study counting towards your continuous professional development requirements. So we are expanding the ways that you can get those credits and have it be easier. And in the last 6 months alone, we've added over 400 hours of new continuous professional development training, constantly updating our resources to make it easier for auditors to maintain their competence and skills. The last area within APSCA that I want to focus on is professional conduct. This has been a very busy year in professional conduct. We've had over 300 cases within our ethics area that we've had to deal with this year, which is great. And with that, the average time it takes us to resolve those cases is down 21% in 2024 alone. So becoming way more efficient at running through those matters. To me, that's a sign that APSCA is fulfilling its purpose effectively and well as an independent oversight body for the social compliance auditing industry, and I'm incredibly proud of that. Which is not to say that there haven't been challenges. And during the breaks, as we talk about, if you have good things to say about APSCA, tell me. If you have suggestions on how we can get better, let me know. But let me head you off a little bit with what I'm seeing, and then when we meet, you can tell me if you agree with those. I think the biggest challenge that APSCA has is transparency. I don't know that we've done a good job of telling you what we do, how we do it, why we do it. So when we go into 2025, I'm committed to you to be more transparent. Let me get in a little bit more detail what I mean about that. Budget. We will do a better job of telling you how we get money in, and more importantly, how we continue to effectively and responsibly spend our money for the betterment of the social compliance auditing industry. I want to do a better job of saying how we collect our funding, especially the $15 audit fee. So those of you probably already know that coming on January 1, the $15 audit fee becomes fully implemented. And I've gotten some feedback from a small number of firms that have some challenges with that on how they operate their business. And though they presented those challenges to me, and we'll have conversations about that. Data. APSCA is uniquely qualified to see the entire global social compliance auditing industry, and we have data that reflects that. We have a unique ability to see that data, and we need to do a better job of sharing that data. For example, we know generally why auditors pass each part of the exam. We also know why some auditors may struggle to pass each part of the exam. Whether you're an auditor or a firm, we need to do a better job of gathering that information and sharing it out with you, so whether you're whatever stakeholder you are, you know what you need to do to increase the chance that an auditor will pass the exam. The last thing I want to focus on that I think we will do a better job of in 2025 is auditor capacity. I've heard from many of you that there are certain regions that need more CSCA so that we can do more work. We hear you. And we'll talk a little bit more about what we're going to do about that. So let me switch and let me start the theme of transparency in reality here right now with you, and let me give you a little bit of insight into what I think is coming and how we're going to communicate better with you in the future. So, budget. I started with budget, let me continue with budget. The board and I met 2 days ago here and began to talk about what budget for 2025 will be. Let me give you some of the highlights. First, how are we going to spend the money? One of the ways we're going to do that is data systems. We're going to invest in data systems behind the scenes so that as data comes in, we're able to gather it, analyze it, and do a better job of reporting out to you how the social compliance audit industry is doing. We're going to hire new staff. We talk about the future of social compliance auditing, and part of that future are new legal requirements, and we need to engage with legislators and regulators and people inside the industry and outside the industry, and we need to do that better. So right now we're hiring for a director of external affairs. We're also going to be hiring a communications manager to help us tell the story better. We have external costs that we're having to deal with. One of those is, in order to run our professional conduct team, we rely extensively on outside experts to help us run that program. In 2024, I mentioned we had 300 cases within our ethics department. That's 240% more than we had budgeted for. So we've had to spend more money on that. And we'll have to continue to do that so that we can effectively respond when ethics complaints are filed with us. I mentioned engaging regulators, and I want to just take a brief aside to mention that we continue to represent the social compliance auditing industry, not just to ourselves, but to external stakeholders as well. I'm happy to announce that in February, APSCA, along with partners M4E, RAP, AFA, and the Walt Disney Company, will be leading a 90-minute panel at the OECD Forum on Garment and Footwear Sourcing in Geneva. And that session is going to be on enhancing the credibility, independence, and competency of the social compliance auditing industry. So we're taking what APSCA does and bringing it to those very people in Paris that will be that are passing laws and looking to regulate our industry. We're going to be sharing our data. With updated data systems, we're going to then do a better job of more consistently feeding you the data back of what we see are the strengths and challenges within the global compliance auditing industry, so that you can see what we see. And then finally, a big push is auditor capacity. 2 weeks ago, we started to address the auditor capacity issue in Italy by meeting with ASCAs and doing a deep dive on the exam process, what the subject will be on the exam, what the logistics are of taking the exam, to give auditors in Italy, where we have an auditor capacity issue, the best chance of success. Italy is first. Japan comes next. Then Brazil. And more will come. So we hear you when you say we need more CSCAs, and we're working with our partners to address that right now. So, with that, that is a very high level of where we are and a very small sneak preview into where we're going. As the new CEO, I'm going to take this opportunity to make the rest of the talk about me. Because I'm new, I want to give you the opportunity for you to get to know me, so that you, when we're out and we're having coffee together, you understand where I come from and why I chose to accept the role of CEO at APSCA. So, my background. First, I'm not going to tell you when I was born, by the way. Someone said you should tell them how old you are. I will not do that. But I'm a lawyer by training. I see some people rolling their eyes. Yes, I'm a lawyer by training. But more importantly, I've been in this industry a long time, and I've done a lot of things that I think relate really well to this role and to the mission of APSCA. Let me give you some of the highlights. I've created and led 2 brand auditing programs. Both were large consumer companies with very broad and very deep supply chains. And it was my job to work with those companies to teach them from bottom to top the value that competent, independent social compliance auditing can do, so that those 2 brands could credibly and competently address the risk in their global supply chains. I've run an audit firm. Now, I say that with a little bit of a wink. My last job at LL Bean, we did a lot of our own auditing. We had auditors, we had 9 auditors on our audit team. And so I say that I led a boutique audit firm of 9 auditors. I know it's not the same as an audit firm, so I say it with a little bit of a wink, but just because it was a small boutique brand firm doesn't mean we didn't have some of the same challenges that you in firms have. So I remember struggling with questions like, how do we find new auditors? How do you keep auditors trained and up to speed on legal changes, on global trends that may affect their day-to-day job? How do you work with some auditors who may focus on some issues and may not focus on some other issues? And I've also been a social compliance auditor myself. So when I say that sometimes auditors focus too much on certain issues, that's me. I've been guilty of that. So for me, and I'm curious what the social compliance auditors in the room think, I tend to always look at worker bathrooms. That is the first thing I look at when I go and audit, and I think that is a sign of everything that's going to be to come. Now, others disagree with that, and sometimes maybe I focus too much on it. So I know from my experience, leading over 100 audits, that sometimes I'm guilty of some of these things as well. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to do something a little bit different. And I'd like to give you some examples of my auditing journey. And for those of you in the room who are auditors, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand if my experience is something that you've experienced. And for those of you online, same ask. If you can raise your hand if you want to, but think, are these experiences something that you've seen before? So that's the chemical room. How many people have seen something like this when you've been auditing? Okay, if everyone doesn't, okay, thank you. Okay, yes, I've experienced that. How many? I did. People are already raising their hand. Yeah, I got chased by wild dogs. Some of you already beat me to the punch. How many people have been chased by animals while you're auditing? Okay, I'm seeing some people in the back. Okay, so okay, I'm not unusual. Okay, this one may be hard to see, and at first glance this doesn't look unusual. 30 seconds before, they were all wearing masks. I left the room and turned back around and came in. How many people have had the experience where you left a room and came back in and all the PPE they were wearing was gone? Okay, good. I'm feeling good. Okay, next one. This is one of my personal favorites. Does anyone see what may be interesting about this photo? So that doesn't, I counted, there are 6 surgical masks and a fitted mask on top of that. That is clearly someone who wants to tell the story that they think I want to hear. So they just went completely over the top. That is a completely ineffective way of handling PPE. How many people have had factories maybe put on a little bit of a show? Okay. And then the next photo. This is, my first photos were sort of tongue-in-cheek examples of some of the challenges that auditors face on a day-to-day basis. Every once in a while, you get to be fulfilled on a personal level, and I've had the privilege of going into factories and auditing factories that have daycares as part of them. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have seen factories like that as part of your work? Okay. So I show you these photos because I think these are typical. Not that they're special, I think they're typical, and everyone's raising their hand, and I can feel everyone online raising their hand as well. I think what these photos show is that being a social compliance auditor is really, really difficult. It takes training, it takes experience, it takes skills, and it takes an unbelievable commitment to high standards and a little bit of a sense of humor. You don't put in all of the time and effort to become a member firm or member auditor or stakeholder. You don't get into our business, and you certainly don't become an APSCA member unless you're committed to high standards, unless you're driven to succeed. So whether you're a brand or a firm or a regulator or an auditor, whether you're inside the industry or you're outside the industry, APSCA is similarly driven to help you, and I am similarly driven to help you as well. Whatever that I can do, whatever APSCA can do to help you succeed in 2025 and in the future, let us know, and we're here to help you do that. So with that, thank you very much, and what I'd like to do now is introduce you to our new board of directors. You're going to see a video introducing you to the new board of directors, and then I'll ask Avadi Safarian to come up and talk about our Vision 2030. So with that, thank you for the kind welcome. Welcome to the conference, and I look forward to getting to know you over the next couple of days.